In 1281, the most feared empire on earth sailed east with thousands of ships. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. They carried soldiers from China, Korea, and Mongolia, men who had seen cities fall, kings kneel, walls break, and entire kingdoms disappear from the map. Their target was Japan. But somewhere between the mainland and the island shore, the empire met something it could not command. The sea. Waves rose, ships cracked. Men screamed in languages from across Asia. The wind turned the Mongol dream into floating wreckage. And after that disaster, one question hangs over the rest of Southeast Asian history. If the Mongols could reach Japan, if they could reach Vietnam, if they could reach Java, why did they never conquer the Philippines? The answer is not simple. It is not because they forgot. It is not because the islands were empty. And it is definitely not because the Mongols were suddenly feeling polite. Empires are not known for their emotional growth. The truth is more interesting. The Philippines was not saved by one battle. There was no single heroic last stand on a beach, no one king raising a sword against Kublai Khan, no neat movie ending with thunder and slow motion. The Mongols never conquered the Philippines because by the late 1200s, their empire had reached the edge of what power could do. And the islands sitting below China were not an easy prize. They were a trap made of water, weather, distance, trade, politics, and people who already knew the sea better than any horse army ever could. To understand this, we need to begin with the man at the center of it all, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, founder of the Yuan Dynasty in China, the ruler who completed the conquest of the Song Dynasty in 1279 and became the first Mongol emperor to rule all of China. For the Mongols, this was more than victory. It was a transformation. They had come from the grasslands, from a world of horses, arrows, and open horizons. Now they ruled one of the richest civilizations on earth, with ports, shipyards, canals, tax offices, markets, paper money, scholars, and bureaucrats who could turn breathing into paperwork if given enough ink. Kublai now had access to something earlier Mongol armies never truly mastered, a navy. And once he had ships, his ambition moved south and east, Japan, Vietnam, Burma, Champa, Java. The Mongol Empire had been built on speed, on terror, on the ability to appear where enemies thought no army could go. But water changes everything. A horse army can live off land. A fleet cannot live off waves. Ships need timber, sailors, pilots, ports, food, fresh water, repair crews, weather windows, maps, local intelligence, cooperation from people who would much rather not be conquered this week, thanks. And the farther Kublai pushed from China, the harder all of this became. In 1281, he tried to break Japan with one of the largest naval expeditions of the medieval world. The plan was overwhelming force. The reality was congestion, confusion, resistance, and weather. The Japanese had prepared after the first Mongol invasion attempt in 1274. They built coastal defenses around Hakata Bay. Samurai raided the Mongol ships at night in small boats. The Mongol fleet was huge, but huge is not always better. Sometimes huge just means harder to turn around when the sky decides to murder you. Then came the typhoon. The storm smashed ships into each other. Many vessels were poorly suited for open sea disaster. Some had been tied together for protection against Japanese raids, which is the sort of decision that makes sense until the ocean starts using your fleet like a child smashing toys together. By the end, Kublai's great invasion had become a graveyard. This matters because 1281 was not just a failed campaign. It was a warning. The Mongols could conquer plains. They could crush walled cities. They could force dynasties to kneel. But maritime Southeast Asia was not a plain. It was not one road, one capital, one throne. It was islands, thousands of them. And what we now call the Philippines was not yet a single country. There was no Republic of the Philippines in 1281. No Manila-centered nation-state waiting to be conquered. No one capital whose fall would hand the whole archipelago to Kublai Khan. Instead, there were many communities, ports, chiefdoms, trading settlements, and local powers connected by sea routes. Places like Mai, often associated with Mindoro, or possibly Bay and Laguna, appeared in Chinese records as part of regional trade. Butuan and Mindanao was known through trade and diplomatic contact. Other communities across the islands were plugged into networks reaching China, Borneo, Champa, Java, and beyond. These were not isolated people staring at the horizon, waiting for history to arrive. They were already inside history. They traded wax, cotton, forest products, cloth, gold, ceramics, metals, and other goods. They qi dao